If you're in a violent relationship, that ain't love. Love don't cause you to put your hand on nobody, man or woman.
Well, family is still searching for answers 8 years later after the disappearance of their loved one, Latrice Armstead. She had recently moved to St. Louis and was seen back here in Memphis when she went missing.
Ms. Armstead had been assaulted prior to her disappearance, and there was an order of protection placed against her husband, her boyfriend, prior to her disappearance.
I absolutely suspect him. At the time that she left, she had her mouth was wired shut because he had broken her jaw.
Armstead was last seen with Bledsoe in Memphis. 2 days later, her car was found burned in Coahoma County, Mississippi.
No one else around her that we know has motive. Everyone that the police wanted to question, they came in for questioning without any fear or anything, except for him. People just don't disappear.
No matter how long, it doesn't go away. If we find her 10 years from now and can link it to the person responsible, they still gotta face it.
Brenda Armstead describes her sister, Latrice Armstead, as a generous person.
Family oriented. If she had something and you are a friend, it's as good as yours.
She hasn't seen her sister or heard her laugh since July 2012. And if you have any information about the whereabouts of Latrice Armstead, you can leave an anonymous tip with Memphis Police. That number, 901-528-CASH.
Latrice Armstead was born on November 2, 1973 and graduated from Quitman County High School. She is a native of Crenshaw, Mississippi, but lives in Memphis, Tennessee. Latrice is known for her beautiful smile, caring nature, and unwavering faith.
Oh, she was very caring, outgoing. She was smart. Oh, so smart. She had several degrees. She loved learning. And she had started, her dream was to open up a daycare. And she was very family oriented. Her 3 little boys, she just liked the idea of family and being together.
She is an active church member, volunteering her time to help those in need. Her sister told ABC 12, if she had something and you were a friend, it was as good as yours. Outside of church, Latrice is a mother of 3 boys, instilling in them the values of hard work, kindness, and empathy. She is their rock, their confidant, and their biggest cheerleader. Latrice is also described as a devoted wife to her husband, Tony. On the outside, everything looked good for the couple. They had been together for over a decade and married for a couple of years. No one knew the intimate details of their married life, and unfortunately, behind closed doors, Latrice was living in a nightmare.
Outside of hello, how are you doing, and the pleasantries that you exchange as family members, there was really nothing. I got a sense that he didn't want family members around as much as we were, because we came to check on her, we came to see. So, especially if we popped up unannounced, that wasn't well received at all. But, he wasn't out of line with us when family members were around. But the history that we learned afterwards is a whole different story.
Tony was allegedly physically and emotionally abusive, and in the summer of 2012, after one violent fight, Latrice had finally reached her breaking point and decided to move on. After years of enduring his alleged abuse, Latrice had enough and decided to leave town and file for divorce. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but she was determined to protect herself and her children from further harm. Sadly, just weeks after trying to take those next brave steps to move forward, Latrice mysteriously disappeared and has yet to be seen or heard. Life had become tense, and while she wanted a fresh start, she couldn't shake the fear of what her husband might do. There was a history of DV in their marriage, and after the last incident, Latrice decided to move on. During the summer of 2012, Tony and Latrice got into a disagreement while on vacation. During that exchange, the report stated, the argument got so intense that Latrice was struck in her jaw.
Yeah, so it was kind of like a reconciliation vacation, and the way she described it to me is they were trying to really figure out what was going to happen, if they were going to divorce, and if so, how would that work out, to see if they could stay together for the sake of the children and continue as a family. But during the course of their vacation, he hit her, and he hit her hard enough to break her jaw. And you can't love someone and physically abuse them like that, and
Causing her jaw to be wired.
yeah, it had to be wired shut. So, that's where she drew the line. She was done. She was through with it because, given the history, at that point, she knew that it wasn't going to change and he would continue to be violent. And it was growing progressively worse to the point where she had to be hospitalized.
She was immediately taken to the hospital to get checked out, and after being seen, the damage was so bad that Latrice's mouth was wired shut. Once she was discharged, while in physical pain, Latrice filed for divorce and was granted an order of protection against Tony. Tony was arrested in New Orleans where the vacation took place, but he didn't stay in custody for long. He was released after a few weeks, not even 30 days, and returned back to Memphis to their family home.
He was arrested, and a restraining order was granted to my sister for him to stay away from her during that time. And I think that's when she really began to put the pieces together to move on with her life. So during that time, because he was in jail more or less a month, but within that short period of time, she made tremendous strides in moving on. She had began to apply to schools, like I said, to be a nurse. And she had filed for divorce, and she had filed for custody of her children. So really, really moving on with her life.
Unfortunately, she knew he wouldn't stay away from her, therefore she moved from Memphis to St. Louis to escape him altogether. Her sister lived there. It would be a fresh start for her and her children. At that point, they were aware of what was happening in Latrice's life and immediately stepped in to help her.
And after the separation, and because she had moved in with me, we had started to grow closer. So she was able to share some things with me that she probably wasn't able to share with anyone else that was around her. There was once a disturbing conversation, and she disclosed this to me afterwards, where she had told her mother-in-law of some abuse. And the mother-in-law's response was, well, that's just how he is. As the investigation to her missing persons case carried on, the family found out more about what really was happening in that situation. From what I can gather, it had started way before, and it was nothing that was traceable. She was married for almost 2 years, but she had been with him for about 13 years.
Latrice would speak with her sister about things. She also kept a diary. Inside that diary, she expressed her feelings and emotions. She also expressed her next moves. In that short time frame, Latrice took multiple trips to move her belongings from her Memphis home with Tony to her sister's place in St. Louis. Latrice only needed to take one more trip back to Memphis before she was finished moving completely. But sadly, during her final trip, Latrice mysteriously vanished and her car was found abandoned, burned, and in a whole different state from her last known location.
If you're in a violent relationship, that ain't love. Love don't cause you to put your hand on nobody, man or woman.
Ms. Armstead had been assaulted prior to her disappearance, and there was an order of protection placed against her husband or boyfriend prior to her disappearance. Based on what I've seen in the case, I don't think she's alive. No matter how long, it doesn't go away. If we find her 10 years from now and can link it to the person responsible, they still gotta face it.
Latrice was trying to close the book on a violent chapter in her life, but she vanished without a trace before she could start anew. She went to Memphis with one of her sons to close some loose ends, but she crossed paths with her husband while she was there. On Friday, July 27, 2012, she dropped off her son at the home of his friend who lived 2 doors down from the family home. On the following day, July 28, 2012, the day of the disappearance, witnesses allegedly saw Latrice twice with Tony. One of the witnesses was their son. He claimed he saw his parents together at their home. What happened between then and now is unknown because Latrice never returned to pick up her son.
So I think she reached a point in her life that she was tired of the toxic relationship with her husband. And so she decided to leave. You know, she gathered up what she could and her children, and they came to stay with me. And there, you know, of course, loose ends that needed to be tied up. And one of those was the oldest son had a sleepover. He wanted to spend the last weekend with his friends, see them one last time. So she agreed to bring him down for the weekend. Over the course of that weekend, she became non-responsive. She wasn't answering calls. And when we truly knew something was wrong, we raised the alarm, we called the police.
Latrice's sister immediately suspected something was wrong when she didn't receive a call from Latrice about her progress with the move or to check on her other 2 boys. Therefore, she immediately filed a missing persons report with Memphis police and alerted her family in the area to look out for Latrice.
Leah still searching for answers after the disappearance of their loved one, Latrice Armstead. She had recently moved to St. Louis and was seen back here in Memphis when she went missing. Local 24 News reporter Rebecca Butcher, she spoke with a relative who just wants her sister home again.
Latrice's sister says that someone knows something. Brenda Armstead describes her sister, Latrice Armstead, as a generous person.
Family oriented. If she had something, and you are a friend, it's as good as yours.
She hasn't seen her sister or heard her laugh since July 2012.
When I realized that I hadn't heard from her, I started looking around for it.
Her sister's a mother of 3 boys and was going through the beginnings of a divorce filing. She moved to St. Louis after trying to escape a violent relationship with her estranged husband, Tony Bledsoe.
I absolutely suspect him. At the time that she left, her mouth was wired shut because he had broken her jaw.
Armstead was last seen with Bledsoe in Memphis. 2 days later, her car was found burned in Coahoma County, Mississippi.
No one else around her that we know has motive. Everyone that the police wanted to question, they came in for questioning without any fear or anything except for him.
And family believes there was motive since Latrice had custody of the kids. Every day, every year, without a break in the now cold case becomes heartbreaking for the family.
People just don't disappear.
And if you have any information about the whereabouts of Latrice Armstead, you can leave an anonymous tip with Memphis police. That number, 901-528-CASH.
Within the first 48 hours, her immediate family searched and tried to contact Latrice. But on the 3rd day, her vehicle, a black Acura TL, was found abandoned and burned in a rural area in Clarksdale, Mississippi, about an hour away from Memphis. According to the family, Latrice isn't a stranger to the area. She is a native of Crenshaw, Mississippi, as stated earlier, which is about 30 miles away from Clarksdale. Once detectives found her car burned, they immediately went to question her husband, Tony. Tony. Once found, detectives thought they were about to question his every move, but Tony denied any involvement in her disappearance. After hours of interrogation, Tony eventually stopped cooperating. He was charged with violating the order of protection Latrice filed against him, and he was eventually let go.
Detectives have questioned several people in connection with Armstead's disappearance, including her husband Tony Bledsoe, but no one has been charged. However, Bledsoe was charged in connection with violating the order of protection Armstead filed against him.
Sometimes I walk around outside hoping I could peep around the corner and see her coming down the street.
Latrice's brother is still holding on to faith she will be found alive, but also admits nothing could keep her from contacting her family, and they haven't heard from her.
No matter how long, it doesn't go away. If we find her 10 years from now and can link it to the person responsible, they still gotta face it.
Tamara Thomas of The Real Talk with Tamara is from the area and has been on top of this case since the beginning. She spoke with Latrice's sister, Brenda, multiple times over the years, and each time important details have been revealed. During one of the interviews, her sister spoke more about Latrice's diary and how it may have mentioned she was moving on with someone else. She also talked about the diary being in possession of Tony's mother.
When your sister left him, did she take her diary with her?
Yeah.
So that means he had to obtain the diary when she came back and she went missing that week.
Most definitely.
More than likely, the diary was in her purse.
Yes.
Okay, so it was found in his mother's car.
Correct.
And that's where the police found it?
Yes, that is.
So now, when she went missing, what was her ex-husband's, how was he, like, after she went missing?
Well, he wasn't responsive to the family. And as a matter of fact, when we sounded the alarm and called the police to let them know that, you know, there was possibly a missing person, they did a well check at their house first. And she wasn't there. He was there, but she wasn't. But the following morning, Sunday morning, they found her car in Coahoma County. And in light of that new information, the police then went back to question Mr. Bledsoe. And there they found one of his relatives there packing his clothes. And he had instructed the nephew to do so because he said that he didn't want to be there when the police came back. You know, and for the family, that raises serious red flags because if you hadn't done anything, why in the world would the police come back? Why would you be worried about the police coming back? Why would you feel the need to pack a bag if you had nothing to hide, if nothing happened, if you had done no wrong?
What was also mentioned about the area by her sister in one of the interviews with Tamara was that the mystery guy Latrice was talking about in her diary lived in that area as well. However, Latrice's sister believed her car may have been positioned that way on purpose.
Now, Latrice's new friend that she was moving on with, now her car was found in the area that he lived in, and you said, like you said, you believe that it was planted there. Who do you think would plant her car there?
Primarily her ex-husband, her estranged husband.
Now, how would he have any ways of knowing where her new friend lived?
Well, first of all, he had access to her diary. So more than likely he had the full name and probably a location. Furthermore, his occupation allowed him to have access to people's personal information. So he could easily look up someone's address, home address, or their mother's address or their phone number.
And what was his occupation?
He was a repo man.
A repo man, okay.
Right.
Yeah, they do have quite a bit of access to things of that nature. Why, I don't know, but they do. Now, when he was questioned, what did he tell the police?
So, Mr. Bledsoe, so first off, let me say that he evaded police for quite some time. And it was a few weeks later, after she had been missing for a while, that they finally were able to get him in for questioning through a traffic stop.
not because he came in and said, my wife is missing and I want to help. He was pulled over in traffic. And he was very uncooperative with the police. But during the questioning, told them that all their answers were in Mississippi. So, you know, which further leads us to believe that he was heavily involved in her disappearance. Because if you don't know anything, how can you speak on anything? And furthermore, give a location.
Absolutely. Furthermore, give a location, you're right. Now, was his nephew that was packing his bags for him before he was actually questioned? Was he ever questioned?
He was questioned, but from my understanding, he was uncooperative as well with the police. So,
wow. How has, because I know you all do like a memory sometimes for Latrice. Well, you do it almost every year, am I right? How has the children, their family been in like the memorials and as far as like helping you all?
they have been unhelpful. We haven't had any help from them. You know, especially when this was all very, very fresh. There were quite a few searches that were arranged, you know, and people from our area, because we grew up there, they donated four-wheelers, and we had neighbors that came out to help look for her. Not one time did anyone from her husband's side of the family say, "Come, I'll come look with you guys," or, you know, have y'all had any updates, or has anything changed? Did you find anything? Nothing. No input from them.
So the police didn't press him, or because I'm stuck on the diary being found in his mother's car. Now, how do you think the diary got in his mother's car?
I think in the transportation, whatever transpired between those two, he needed a ride to get back, and I'm sure he used the mother's car. There had to be a way for him to come back to Tennessee, and I'm almost positive he used the mother's car. And probably because he's sort of egotistical, he probably took the diary to go through it and comb through it and see what other information he could find about how she was moving on with her life and what she really thought about the things that were going on around her.
Unfortunately, Latrice Armstead has never been found and no arrests have been made concerning her disappearance. In the last few years, a Memphis local news team called On Your Side investigators went to Tony's mother home about the case. They allege she shut the door without answering any questions. Foul play is suspected in Latrice's case, which remains unsolved. Latrice was 5'4" and weighed 150 pounds when she vanished. In 2023, the Memphis Police Department stated they will be handling this cold case, and anyone with information on her disappearance should contact Crime Stoppers or MPD.
Now, all those cases are part of the reason Mulroy is establishing a new cold case unit, he says. The DA's office will work with the Memphis Police Department to revisit unsolved crimes, chase new leads, and attempt to bring victims' families the justice they've waited years to receive. Brad Broders explains how soon that unit will get started on work.
She was always a nurturer, just by instinct.
For family members of Latrice Armstead, the pain still feels fresh and real, more than a decade after she was reported missing in Memphis.
There is a great gap in our family.
Armstead's disappearance in July 2012 remains a cold case to this day.
There are a lot of loose ends to this, a lot of unanswered questions.
But Latrice's younger sister Brenda has a newfound sense of hope after Shelby County District Attorney Steve Mulroy announced the formation of a new cold case unit.
There may have been things overlooked and things missed. So just to go back and have a second set of eyes or a fresh pair of eyes looking at this.
Mulroy said he expects Memphis police will provide the DA's office the first batch of suggested cold cases to review sometime next week. He said the unit's goal is to revisit 200 unsolved cases a year.
We can't guarantee results in any individual case, but we're going to do our best to tie up some of these loose ends and resolve some of these cases.
Mulroy said the unit will prioritize murder and sexual assault cold cases in the hopes of cracking cases before perpetrators are able to strike again.
We know that a small number of violent repeat offenders are responsible for a large percentage of the crime.
As for Armstead, she's hopeful the unit revisits her sister's cold case and that the team can eventually bring her and other families long overdue justice.
It means everything. And for those who do get justice, oh my goodness, the sense of relief and closure.
The Shelby County District Attorney said cold cases beyond 1 year would be eligible for review in the DA office's newly formed cold case unit. I'm told while more distant cold cases are more difficult because of available witnesses, the DA would not limit a time frame and how far back the unit could go back to review. I'm Brad Broders.
My thoughts and prayers goes out to Latrice's friends and family, especially her children. I'm glad that Memphis decided to add this case onto their cold case unit so that the family could get more answers. You all, let me know your thoughts and your opinions about this down below. Let's please respect the family and the victim in the comments. I love you all dearly. And with that being said, please don't forget to check on your loved ones.